Our podcast name is Bozo, based in our condo. Get ready, cause our show is starting really pronto. Talking tons about stuff we all like. Give us a listen, let me tell ya, we don't bite. We know your mind will be jumping super high as you hear us making light of our lives. Time spot, frequencies and energies. Time spot, frequencies and energies. Get us thinking about space, poo-poo and pee-pee. Come on, 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 come on. Look at the sky and listen.
Whoa, welcome back, you filthy ingrates. You've made it to Season 2, Episode 12 of PodcastBozo, where you came just in time to hear us partake in a conversation with Ian, Chrissy, and Micah, because they have a new project that is in process, and it's called SCREAMO. Before that, I just want to ask you, Cheek, how's hell?
A little cold this time of year, Jay.
All right, cool. Here with me always, we have locally renowned beer server Sean and celebrated artist / animator Eli. My name is JJ, but you can call me Bobby Paradise. As always, it's good to be with y'all. I want to mention first that this is a podcast that is supposed to have a community effort. We want to hear from you, so please visit our website, podcastbozo.com, our social accounts using @podcastbozo, and chime in on our conversations. We will respond to you. We have nothing better to do. Now that we have trapped you here, though, please donate to our Bozo Fund, and we'll give you a shout out, read whatever you leave in the donation message, or write a little story about you. All you got to do is donate first. So, all that side stuff aside, Ian, Chrissy, and Micah, how we doing today?
Pretty good.
I was gonna say, ladies first,
Oh,
Chrissy.
geez.
Ladies first.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty good. You know, just chilling.
Just chilling? Yeah.
Just
that's
chilling.
good.
Micah, how are you doing, my man?
I'm doing good.
I feel like I haven't seen your face in so long. I watch Chrissy's Twitch all the time, so I see her all the time, but I don't see you very much.
Oh, I know. We used to hang out at shows all the time.
I don't remember when life was like a thing.
Yikes. Yeah, I can't. I don't anymore, to be honest. I feel like I've been in this room for the past 10 months.
Because I want to cry.
Well, Ian, I mean, we've talked to you before. We had a nice long episode where
We did have a nice long episode. That was a really fun one. I got fucked up.
Yeah, those were earlier quarantine days. We had nothing but alcohol. We hadn't adapted properly yet.
I literally had to take a day off work the next day because I was just completely like, oh my god, what's happening? But this is we get this interview where you guys get to see the quarantine hair, how that's growing out pretty cool.
Yeah, I've been following it on Instagram. Your Instagram is basically dedicated to your hair. I feel like you should have your own account that's associated with it.
Maybe I don't know how to tell people. It's literally just because my entire head is just all weird shapes, so my hair grows in all different directions. Not unlike Chrissy's discovery of how Brussels sprouts are grown. Which really terrified me. Chrissy, do you want to maybe enlighten us on
They're
what
strange.
Brussels sprouts look like?
They just kind of look like they're just like all bunched together. It's very strange. It looks like it would be on like James Cameron's Avatar.
Yeah. I said it looked to me. I said what it looked like was a Santa's stocking stuffed with the Grinch's balls.
Yes.
Ah,
Also accurate.
Yeah. And yeah, I got one laugh out of that. So thank you.
Well, I watched The Grinch last night, so it was very applicable.
The live action one or the original, or which one?
I watched the new 2018 one with Benedict Cumberbatch.
I saw
The new animated one, yeah.
Summer movies with the kids.
What were your thoughts, Cheek?
It was good, definitely moved away from the original storyline a lot, but I didn't mind that. It's a third remake going on here. They had a single mom thing going on, a new story for the little girl. I enjoyed it. I think
it's interesting how like the farther we keep going, the more and more sympathetic we all feel to the Grinch compared to like before. Where it's just like, he's
especially this year.
Yeah. Oh, I'm like, oh no, he was living in quarantine willingly.
Yeah. Wait, we're all.
Maybe he wouldn't be such a bad guy if some guy wasn't singing about how he was an asshole every 10 minutes. Maybe that would make you a little grumpy too.
Yeah.
Do you think that guy who's like narrating and singing, is that supposed to be an omniscient third person thing, or is that inner monologue inside the Grinch's head?
Oh, that's I don't know which more is sad. If it's just God's
trippy,
God's voice coming from the heavens telling
God
you that you're
singing at him.
horrible, or inside your own body, you're just making up this horrible song about yourself.
I mean, I do that every day though, so
Yeah.
I understand. Like, you suck at your work. Nothing you do is good. Like, you know?
I feel like that might be the plight of the artist, though. Quite frankly,
I think that's the plight of every essential worker right now.
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bring the room down.
Are we
Yeah.
essential workers?
Yeah.
In my heart. Yeah.
People need their comic books.
Yeah, we bring the art to people, mostly Chrissy and Micah, but we do
Yeah.
sometimes.
Well, we've been following and we're fans. That's a good enough as transition as ever. You guys want to tell us about the project? From what I understand, Chrissy, you're the character designer and concept artist, and Ian, knowing your background, I'm guessing you do background design and I don't know. You enlighten me more there, and then Micah, you're the character. You do the character art.
No.
In terms of like the lettering.
The
I should
lettering.
say,
Yeah,
not
yeah, the
character.
lettering. Yeah.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that. Where is this project going? Do we have a deadline? What's going on here?
Yeah, so essentially I'm like 95% just writing this one this time around.
Okay.
Because Chrissy's art is like incredible. So I'm letting
awesome.
I'm letting her pretty much take like the reins of this and then I'm adding some of my art into it just in the sense of being like, here's some ideas I have about what maybe this character might look like, and I just pass it along to Chrissy and she fucking knocks it out of the park.
Nice.
That's just how it's been going. And then Micah has been gracious enough to also join the team, and he's going to be helping us with the lettering and some of the design work as far as just making sure everything looks cool and everything looks cohesive. Because if there was anything about the SCREAMO scene, it was certainly cohesive.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is pretty much the team as far as it goes. The reason that it's interesting because we've been doing these. It's so funny, and Chrissy and I did a podcast. It was like 2 or 3 months ago. Chrissy, something like that. Anyways. And they reached out to us and they were just like, hey, we've been hearing about this project, this book you guys are working on about like this kind of era of music. And then it's sort of a semi-autobiographical book about my experience in that scene. And this was the Gray and Gold podcast, I believe is what it was called. It was really fun.
Cool.
But
shout out Gray and Gold.
Yeah, it's really fun. It's really cool. And they basically they reached out to us because they've been hearing all this stuff, just kind of looking at like Chrissy's concepts and hearing about what I was talking about just kind of online and things. And so it's really interesting. What's so incredible is that we've been getting this insane amount of response for this project that's not even like done yet. Like it's not out. So there's not a deadline. I do want to have it. My goal is to get it out by 2021, 2022. If the world is still around,
Hopefully.
At that point, it will be. But yeah, it's just been crazy because you guys know this, like, I've worked on Adventure Time. I worked on the Invader Zim movie. I've worked on Bravest Warriors. I've worked on Hello Kitty, Ugly Dolls, Rocket Raccoon. Like I've worked on a bunch of different stuff, but for the first time ever, Welcome to Showside. That was a big one. I think we talked about last time.
Yeah.
But more than ever, I've never seen such a visceral response to this of like just people being like going on like Chrissy's Twitch stream and being like, well, who's this character? Like, what's their story? What's going on with them? Or like hitting me up personally on like Facebook or Twitter or Instagram and being like, dude, I need to know what the hell is going on. What's this book about? Like, what's up? Like, who are like, what's the story? What's going on? And so that's, I think, what's been really incredible is just this reception that we've been getting for a project that's not finished, for a project that essentially is
Pretty
right
much
now
just
is
concept at the most part.
just been concept work that I've been slowly like working on writing out and things like that. And it's just been crazy. And also because, I lived this story too.
Right.
To like break it down in like the most easy way I can essentially break down is basically the book is called SCREAMO, and it's both fiction and nonfiction, but it's essentially I was a lead singer of a shitty screamo band around like 2003 to about like 2011, 2012 maybe. And we were touring up and down the East Coast, and I got to witness just a lot of like super crazy stuff that was like kind of going on in the scene. And a big thing that like Chrissy and I talked about on a personal level was just like how from the outside, it's just a bunch of like, it looks like just a bunch of goofy kids, you know what I mean? Like it's people who, and now it's people, now from that scene, people are generally in their like mid 20s to mid 30s and things like that. But it's like, when you looked at it from the outside, it was just a bunch of kids dressing all crazy, wearing like, socks on their hands with stripes and doing, I really wanted her to do the thing, but I couldn't, I can't borrow eyeshadow right now, but on the inside, there was a lot of pretty dark and dramatic things that were going on at the time. And so essentially the crux of the story is it's me looking at the bands that I was in, the bands I was associated with, sort of the lifestyle at the time, which included a lot of really jacked up stuff. I mean, there was a lot of drugs, there was a lot of alcohol, there was a lot of like just drama all around. There's a lot of fun stuff. Like there's a lot of funny moments and things like that. But at the heart of it, it's also focuses on the unfortunate death of my best friend at the time, who was in a different band, and he OD'd. And essentially, like that's kind of the core center of the story. And then we branch out kind of into exploring like the musical genres, the bands at the time. Like we're not going to be naming specific bands. We're going to be making like facsimiles of these bands and things like that, because I really don't need to be sued by the Used or My Chemical Romance at the moment.
Yeah.
Although I kind of doubt My Chemical Romance would sue me. The Used would totally sue me though. And Trapped is a fucking horrible band, so they can go fuck themselves. So they will not be in the book. Sorry. But yeah, that's kind of what it's about. And it's been really cool working with Chrissy and Micah and just kind of getting this thing together. And like I said, we've already had interest from publishers. I've on the DL, I've had some animation studios is all I'm going to say, have asked me about if maybe we wanted to think about pitching this as an animated thing as well. And yeah.
Wheels are turning down there, Micah.
It's just been crazy because it's like this is a thing that we've been slowly working on, and like we're all busy right now. Everybody's hustling like motherfuckers right now, trying to just make sure they got money in their bank account during this time. It's not easy, and the entertainment industry as well is not easy. And with comics animation, a lot of jobs have really kind of dried up, or a lot of studios are still trying to figure out how they're working around quarantine and working remotely and all that kind of stuff. And so basically once I'm going to say pretty much once the holidays are done, this thing is kicking into high gear. And if the response that we've gotten just based off of just talking about this book and just seeing these designs is any indication of what's going to happen once we actually have this thing out, it'll be cool.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have something pretty special with the fact that people are already affirming your beliefs this early on in the project. And I know you guys have already put a lot of dreaming and thought into this, but it's some people have these big goals and projects that they don't get affirmation until the job is complete. And there's a lot of doubt along the way. And it feels to me, and from what I've seen and from the reactions I've seen on Twitter and things like that, that this project has absolutely the public affirmation that you guys need to be confident about it and move forward with it. And it's pretty exciting to see that. Like us as early on podcasters, and me as a small business owner, it's nice. We don't have this as much as you guys have it, and it's such a special thing to have and take forward. And I bet it's exciting. I bet it's super exciting to have people just being like fired up about this. And I don't know. do you guys have any testament to like at one point, Ian, you told me that someone from Blizzard is looking into it. How does that apply? What does Blizzard have to do with this?
So this was very weird because actually Chrissy works in the video game field as well. So I thought this was even more ironic. But yeah, just randomly out of nowhere one day, one of the like top designers over at Blizzard just like hit me up. And he wasn't like, it wasn't like, hey, we want to make a video game out of this, although I think that'd be pretty cool. But no, he was just like, I've been following.
That's perfect.
That sounds nice.
Yeah. But no, he just like this guy he had just hit me up kind of nowhere. He's just like, hey, I just want to let you know, like I've been following you guys talking about this project for like a couple weeks now. I just want to tell you, like, this is really, really fucking cool. And I was just like, that's so, and for someone to just hit you up out of nowhere,
very cool.
It's just cool. And so,
Britney Spears.
Chris, do you want to address the awesome term that you came up with to sort of explain, I think, why people are so into this?
So I said in a podcast we were in, I said like scene escapism, and that pretty much just means like you want to go back to a time where things were like simpler, you didn't have as many responsibilities, you didn't have work, you didn't have bills to pay. I don't know, it's just something like we want to seek comfort in a familiar place, I guess. And
is it almost
I think it was just kind of like I think a lot of the response has been like Chrissy was saying, is this like scene escapism is I guess what we've been calling, which I think is a great term. But it's just so interesting because it was like I was saying earlier, it's like the people who were kind of in that music scene or into that music scene between like, I don't know, 2001 to probably, 2010, I would say, around there. It was like we were kids, and like the biggest scandal at the time was, what's her face? I always forget her name. What is her name? Who we lip synced on SNL?
Ashley Simpson? Yeah.
Ashley Simpson, yeah, we're like that was wow, oh my
god,
that was the biggest drama of the day. Brain. And now all these people where that was like, we were talking about that for a month, being like, holy shit, can you fucking believe it? Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah. Now we're all in our mid-20s and mid-30s and shit, going all like, well, I hope a nuclear bomb doesn't drop on us today.
Yeah.
Like,
Less problems.
So,
yeah, seriously.
I think that's why a lot of people have been reacting to this so kind of viscerally and positively, is because it's like, I'm not saying that there wasn't, like I was saying earlier, I'm not saying there wasn't a ton of drama and bullshit going on. And, like I was saying, applied directly to, like I said, my friend who he OD'd and died. Obviously there was all this crazy stuff going on, but at the same time, it was also like a very tight community. And I think that especially now with all of us kind of not being able to be around people as much at all, I think that this reminder that there were these very tight-knit communities of people celebrating something they loved, i.e. these genres of music, really, I guess, like strikes a chord for a lot of people right now who are maybe a little bit more lonely and a little bit disenfranchised right now, just kind of with everything that's going on, and maybe just don't know what to kind of do with themselves. That, we don't know what the future holds, things like that. But we definitely know what the past holds. And I think that's something that is important to a lot of people.
Does that scene not get a lot of representation? It sounds like you mined into this untapped audience that hasn't gotten any light in recent times.
I think what it is one was the, and Chrissy or Micah, correct me if I'm wrong here, but the internet was not the juggernaut that it was back in the day, back around the time that kind of this music was starting to come out. And it took a lot more effort to find these groups and to find these bands and to obtain their music and things like that. And then this is my theory, is that with the internet, I mean, it's unfortunately, I love the internet and I hate the internet. Let's just put it that way. But fortunately, basically almost everybody can use the internet now fairly easily. Again, Tinder sucks. But I guess what I'm trying to say is like with the internet suddenly zooming as far as it is now, you have access. There's almost too much stuff.
I remember that.
And so with my belief is that, and I talked about this on a different thing, but like, you remember when like rap metal was like really big, like Limp Bizkit and Korn and stuff like that? Like to me, that was sort of like the last little piece of true, like where money was just being poured into bands essentially. And then we had kind of like, just like when we had the 80s hangover after the 70s, we sort of had this like aughts hangover after like 97 to 2001, I want to say. Where like I was saying, like kind of like Stained, you know, all these kind of bands, you know, Linkin Park, all that kind of stuff. You know, which were fine, you know what I mean? Like I'll get down on, I'm not getting down on rolling, Chrissy, but so then what ended up happening is that because the internet at that time still wasn't as prevalent as it is now, it was still hard to find these new bands. And then what happened was all these emo bands started evolving, these screamo bands started evolving, these post-hardcore,
so bad.
Crunchcore, which I just, or crunkcore, like Broken Side. I think that, yeah, sorry. Oh God, it's so bad. But anyways, and so then what you ended up seeing was also a lot of these bands were getting popular via like YouTube and things like that. But we were finding, you know, basically like, I think more people are sort of connecting to that era of music at the time, just because the people who are connecting to it spent a lot more energy and effort trying to actually find those bands and get into that scene and go and buy the tickets to see whatever. Whereas now it's just like, you just click on fucking Spotify and there's 5,000 playlists of any genre of music you want to listen to ever. Like it's this over saturation essentially. So that's why I think further now connect to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I never thought about it that way. Like the tangibility of the music scene back then is so different than it is now. Like in even further now, there's online concerts. You just have to flip open your laptop and look at a concert. I mean, that's new to this year.
I mean, it's cool. Largely, I mean, I'm into it. Like I got no problem with it. But like at the time, you know, going to, at least for me, like going to go see a concert was a week of planning and or like sneaking out of my parents' house, you know, at 10 o'clock at night and like, you know, jumping in my buddy's car, stopping at Wendy's to get a junior bacon double cheeseburger and then going over to the thing and then sneaking through a window back into my house to make sure my parents didn't catch me.
Right. And acquiring CDs and hiding those from your parents, and I'm guessing, and having just like that that's where the culture comes into it, because all these people listening to these bands have the same experiences with it. And I'm sure that the project you're working on kind of embodies all that, and it brings together those feelings. It's any form of escapism, as Chrissy put it. It's just it's first of all, people are very willing to escape these days, I think, and
I'm ready to go right now.
Yeah. Show some. Read us a story, Ian. But it's cool what you're doing, and like Eli said, I had the same question. Like, it must be so underrepresented, and that's why people are so like light bulb when they hear about this kind of resurfacing and what you're doing with it. And I mean the concept art's awesome. It's like it feels spot on, and and it's just cool to see that. I don't know. It seems like a story that hasn't been covered. It's the same thing for me when I see a movie that comes out that I'm just like, oh, that's cool. That's a good idea. You know, that's something I had, because, you know, you've seen a billion war movies, you've seen a billion space movies, but then all of a sudden there's one of those things that kind of penetrates the market, so to speak. And it makes you kind of, your eyes pop a little bit, and it splits your feet apart too. But I want to hear more about Micah. Micah, talk to me. What's going on?
Micah, where are you coming to us from?
Yeah,
Virginia.
Woo! I was in Virginia a month ago. Where in Virginia?
I live in Portsmouth, Virginia. Not too far from like Norfolk and Virginia Beach.
Nice. Okay, we were in wow, I just blanked hard, but where University of Virginia is.
Charlottesville.
Charlottesville. Yeah, there you go. I wasn't driving. I just was a passenger. So
that's a couple hours away. Not too far.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
Charlottesville? Like 2 hours? Yeah, I think it's like 2 hours away.
We got a co-pilot over there.
My wife. My wife's behind me.
Hey, how you doing?
My wife. This is my wife.
My wife.
Just doing it.
Someone had to do the Borat. Someone had to. Come on.
Thank you for getting out of the way, Cheek. What's your background, Micah? Where do you come from with did you educated in what you do today? Do you find that your education applied to it? Did you pick it up after school? I want to hear more about Micah.
Yeah, I mean, after high school, I had, I think, 10 careers, 10 jobs. The last one being this one, the lettering. I tried all kinds of different construction, delivery. I delivered paint. I delivered pizza. I worked in a group home for a super long time. That was the last job I had. While I was doing that, I was working overnight in a group home and going to school for graphic design during the day. And I got
Micah works his fucking ass off, just so you guys know.
Yeah.
My goodness.
And I got into lettering just because I didn't want to work in a group home anymore. So I mean, it could be a fun job or it can be a horrible job because you work overnight by yourself with a home with guys that were a little off their rocker. So it could be 8 hours of watching TV and cleaning a little bit, or it could be 8 hours of fighting for your life, pretty much. So I wanted to get into something in comics because I loved comic books, and I wasn't really doing good with writing and I can't draw. I used to draw when I was a kid. I just kind of lost, I don't know, I just lost the love of doing it, I guess. So I kind of got out of practice. But with like Mad Men was on TV and the whole work, doing advertising. I was would be graphic design to do advertising, and I did about a year and a half of that. And the group home laid me off, and then after that I couldn't find a job. I did a couple of little small jobs, but then I was doing the lettering during the day, trying to find something else to make us money because I was the only one working. My wife was in nursing school, and we have 2 kids. So after about 6 months, she got done with nursing school and I got a job. So I asked her if I could kind of try and make lettering a career. And because I don't ever stop working, I made it one. It started small and just grew and grew, and I don't have to do anything else now. So it's kind of nice.
Now that's a story I can get behind.
Yeah.
Well,
you still reading comics?
Yeah, I still read comics. Yeah.
Where's some of your all-time favorites?
Justice League International from the 80s, Starman, the Superior Foes of Spider-Man. I love that. That came out a couple years ago. That was good. Coming out right now, you know what? A book I really loved, Giant Days. It came out from Boom. It was a story about 3 college girls in England. It was like a slice of life kind of story, but it was really funny. I love that comic.
Right
Giant Days. There it is. Yeah, I love Giant Days.
I'm reading it right now.
Yeah, that, and then now the guy who did that and the artist are doing another book that just left my head. I don't know why, but it's about a teen girl detective. I can't remember what it's called now. It just left me. But
Nancy Drew.
Yeah, it's kind of like a Nancy Drew kind of book. What's the freaking book's name? It's gonna drive me nuts.
Micah, is that beard a quarantine beard, or is that
Oh
Micah?
no, I've had this forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've had.
No.
As soon as I could grow facial hair, I started growing facial hair.
Nice. Never turned back, huh?
Same.
Yeah, I have a very
I want to be
I
a giant dwarven beard.
I can't grow.
Braided.
I can't grow facial hair at all. Mine just does the Joe Dirt, where it just goes like down that way, and then whatever. But
We
yeah,
wish you
that's
had
why.
that
That's why I
today.
hired Micah. The beard didn't have anything to do with his talent at all.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
gonna say the team was lacking facial hair until Micah signed on. So glad you guys waited out. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
no. You have to have one guy who looks vaguely like a lumberjack.
Yeah, of course. Every team
So,
does.
and like Chrissy and I aren't pulling it off too well. So.
Damn it.
We
I
need
thought that was my
somebody
whole
else.
vibe.
Yeah.
Well, you do have flannel though, so there's that.
But yeah, but no, Micah's done worked with a ton of fucking writers and artists. It's crazy, dude. Because like he doesn't just do lettering too. He does logos and does, you know, and also helps out with some like design things and shit like that. So basically, like when I started wanting to put this team together, like Micah and Chrissy were just kind of like the natural. Like, why wouldn't I fucking work with them? You know what I mean? Like, why? Like, totally. You know what I mean?
Where did you
especially
meet
helped-
them?
Yeah, well, just, you know, yeah. And like, you know, they're okay people, I guess.
Yeah, we're okay on them so far. Yeah.
I'm like 2 drinks deep right now, so just
Yeah.
So I got a question for you guys. With all the public interest that's being built around the product or the project right now that is coming to fruition, do you guys feel a lot of added pressure to get that done in a quicker time frame, to get this out for these people? Or is it kind of, you feel like, you know, this is a passion project, so you're taking it as you want to? Or is there that added pressure because of all the public interest that's been developed?
I can say on my end of it, you know, absolutely, it's definitely a passion project for sure. Just because, like I was saying, I mean, this is a book essentially honoring, like I said, a friend who passed away, and like I said, it's sort of a quasi autobiographical type book. So there's gonna be, you know, there's, you know, it's me basically. It's me, but it's not me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it's a passion project, but I'm also not, I'm not a patient person. And it's also something that I want to get into people's hands as fast as I physically can, without murdering Kirsty or Micah, which is why I'm waiting until after the holidays to go ahead and get everything kind of kicking into high gear.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely, it is a passion project, but I'm also, comics are a business, animation's a business, games are a business, things like that. You know, there was a saying, and let me just ramble this off because this is going to sound horrible for about
Hit us.
a minute. This is going to sound disgusting.
Okay.
So I went to Savannah College of Art and Design. And I got my MFA there in sequential art, essentially, and which does not exist anymore. That program got absorbed into illustration. And what the sequential art program was a focus on comics, animation, storyboarding. Essentially, like, it taught you how to realize and make art an actual art, you know, be it writing or designing or whatever, to make it an actual career, and that you have to treat it as an actual career. As awesome, as fun, and as great as it would be for me to be, you know, an artist on like Tumblr or, God forbid, DeviantArt. But as awesome that has, like, you know, 15,000 followers, 30,000 followers, things like that. There are so many artists and writers and designers and letters who are more behind the scenes, but are actually like really making their careers take off, and they're able to work just basically on their art. You know, like Chrissy's working on this video game stuff and doing comics. Mike is doing all these comics and God knows what else. I'm assuming ripping trees in half and eating villagers and things like that. But sorry, Micah.
Throw him under the bus there.
You made
More
me
of a
so
gentle
tough at the
giant.
beginning, and then I was killing people, and I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah, you know, just murdering people.
Yeah, I'm glad this isn't an in-studio interview. Jesus.
No, I mean, man, I don't know. I'm pretty sure I'd be the one who gets my ass kicked first. If we're the Ninja Turtles, I'm definitely the Michelangelo. But
yeah, well, I wouldn't even be a Ninja Turtle, so I
Yeah.
get stomped on.
But anyway, so I went to this college and I did this, and they taught you how, you really have to treat this stuff as a career. But a big part of, you treat it like any job, basically, like doing comics and all that is, and animation and video games and whatever you want to say, as far as like creating art goes, you still have to treat it exactly like any other job. It's not all fun. It's not, if anything, it's the opposite of fun most of the time. Sometimes it's a real fucking not fun job, basically. But what a big thing that I got from that was this, and again, this is going to sound bad, but let me explain. Yeah. But it's this term that basically says, like, you need to be able to kill your babies. I.e., like, you need to be able to understand if a project's not working, to drop it and step away. I did this recently I had this 3-book gig with a publisher, and I did the first book and I realized it just wasn't working out, and I had to step away. This is for the first time in my life. I had to go like, I got to step away from this. I'm not digging this, whatever. There's also that concept of, like, a lot of beginning artists and writers have this idea of, like, their space opera, right? So meaning that they have this, like, epic, huge series plan that's just basically not feasible. I mean, it's not really like how it works when you're trying to break in and things like that. And by far, Chrissy and Mike and I are not just breaking in. We've been doing this stuff for a while, but, like, it taught me very, very clearly with this kill your babies concept being like, if something's not working for you and you're not passionate about it, it's time to drop it. And with SCREAMO, I'm extremely passionate about it, but it also teaches me that this is also a business. And, like, I want to get this, there's a sweet core of time to, like, kind of get things out, get things going. Because if you just sit on something forever and you just talk about how you're going to do it, and you talk about how you're going to do it, and you talk about how you're going to do it, but then you never really get around to doing it, then nobody gives a fuck after a while. Yeah. And people's brain memories, especially now, are like a hamster. It's like it's a very short amount of time that people actually give a shit about stuff. Yeah. And thankfully, we've been lucky enough where people are still asking me about this project and are still into it. And that's why I'm like, we're gonna get this thing moving. And thankfully, like I said, we've had Chrissy's awesome art. And now that I've announced that Micah is involved, we've had a lot of people asking, getting a little more into it. And so we've been slowly building and things like that. But yeah, it was just, if there was anything I've learned, it's like, listen, passion projects are sweet. There's nothing wrong with that. But if you're really trying to, like, get things out to the masses, you can't sit on your ass the entire time. Like, you've really got to treat this as a job. And so, like I said, we've had some people interested in it already who are like, send us your stuff, send us stuff. I've been shooting stuff along, putting things together, and it's just like, to get that response now, as we talked about earlier, is really amazing. But it's also my responsibility, and to a lesser extent, Chrissy and Micah's responsibility, to jump on this and on as fast, not as fast as we can, because we want it to be a good looking project. Obviously, we don't want to rush it, but to make this the best looking thing we possibly can make it, and also be cohesive and work together, because I'm fairly sure we all like each other. And
oh no, Micah.
We can blur out Micah's face for that one. Yeah.
I'm trying so hard. I haven't seen Micah's face in months.
God, it was on camera.
Yeah. Micah, you're still.
But yeah, like, that's really what it is. It's like, and that's a hard thing to do sometimes too. And these are, I do a lot of portfolio reviews for, like, newer artists and things like that. And it's sometimes it's hard to explain to people. It's like, listen, you're not just going to be, like, running through hills of fucking, like, butterflies and tulips and things like that. A lot of it is, one, it's very isolating, which is added on, which with what's going on now, that adds on to a lot. It's even more isolating now, because now you can't just go out really and do a whole lot of stuff. And two, it's like, unfortunately, most of the time you're going to be starting out small, and you're going to be starting out with, like, smaller gigs and things like that. Thankfully, generally, if you meet your deadlines and you're a cool person to work with, and, like, you're, vaguely talented, you don't even have to be the best artist in the world, honestly, or best writer or whatever. As long as you're I've always found that like as long as you're like cool to work with and like you meet your deadlines, you can generally you're solid. But like things will snowball for you, and you know you'll get bigger projects and bigger. I mean, my career basically started where I just like was asked to do like a cover for an Adventure Time thing, and they liked that cover. Then they asked me to do another one, and then another one, and then further, and then like everything snowballed into a big thing. But it's like, yeah, the biggest thing I can take away from this is that it's passion projects. I'm working with two of my favorite people in the industry, and that's awesome. But also, we want to get this book out, and we want to get this into people's hands as fast as we possibly can, but at the quality that we want it to be at. So I'm hoping, like I said, next year at the latest, the other maybe 2022. But with the amount of interest we have been getting from various publishers and editors and the myriad of other people who've really, like Chrissy was saying, have really gotten into this scene escapism thing. It's just sort of like, I think we've got something really special here. And a big part of why we're even here talking right now is that we're also trying to promote this thing too, and let people know that it exists, and that like you guys will be able to escape into the scene.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put you on the spot real quick. When the book does launch, I need a commitment from you guys right now that we get a proprietary copy signed by all three of you.
We can definitely make that work.
Can we make that happen?
Yeah, that'll happen.
All right.
Hell yeah. Cool.
And we'll put it on we'll send it to Denver and put it on JJ's wall of amusement behind us.
Oh, sweet. Nice.
Yeah.
It's not actually called the wall of amusement. I don't know what it's called.
I like that better.
Cool.
Yeah, I
better
like
than
that. Cheek. Yeah, Cheek, come over and sign my wall of amusement.
Cool.
I'd love to.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about there some of that we kind of talked about last time, where we're treating art as a job is almost like part of because you get this like sometimes art gets this like connotation that it's kind of like whimsical and there's no goal to it, and it's like what are you doing in your life, kind of thing. Like I could hear my dad yelling that at me for some reason. But
Shut up,
and then
Mr.
there's
Greg.
yeah, and then there's this industry side that you have to come up through where there's this business thing and you're always kind of executing someone else's vision, and you don't have that freedom to kind of like be like make your own vision necessarily. And I mean, I've been in the marketing world and I did graphic design stuff a little bit, so I only have a small taste. Don't take me as an expert in any regard, but I remember they'd be like, do this, and they give me vague instructions, and I come back with my vision of what that'd be, and they're like, tweak this, tweak that, move that, throw that away, boom, and then it's like, and then all of a sudden you're just like, I don't feel passionate about this project at all. So part of what makes a passion project is that you guys are in control of it and your vision is being executed here, and it doesn't necessarily feel like it's a job. And yeah, Ian, it sounds like you guys need to like keep yourself grounded, and that's the stage you're in, and keep it moving forward. But on the same side, there's the art side to it where like you got to ride your own excitement on the project too. And like there's an emotional side to it where you're executing. And don't let me speak for you if I'm out of line here, but for me, everything that I've ever done that was creative, that I was passionate about, I was always better at it when I was like riding it out, and just kind of executing with those feelings that I have associated with it. And I don't know, with a 3-person project, there's obviously a technical side to it. But in earlier, Chrissy, you mentioned there was a SCREAMO curse, and I think you were joking.
It was a joke.
But you were joking. But have there been rocky roads yet? Or are you guys been just the dream team so far?
Everything's been pretty smooth. It's just like I get like character briefs and then I create them, and then Ian's like, "Cool, I want this pink or something."
Yeah.
But it's pretty
Always
make whatever changes, and all that. So it's been super easy so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, like for this one, because one, like you guys know, like, I wrote and drew Welcome to Showside, which was more like a kids oriented thing. And then this is kind of not my first foray into mostly being like the writer. It's also nice to be writing this and also have a background in art, because I think it like kind of helps a lot just as far as making what I'm asking Chrissy to do a lot easier, because God knows I've had writers who have no concept of like just how difficult it is to take what they've written and then like turn it into art, basically. Hey, Chrissy and Micah, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And so for this one though, it was funny because I was worried I was sending Chrissy way too much description of stuff, and then she was like, "No, dude, like fuck you, like send me more."
I didn't say that.
And it was just like,
you talk to Ian like we talk to Ian. It sounds like.
Yeah. No, she was like, "No, don't worry about it." Like she was like, "I want more descript. Like give me as much like minute descriptions as you possibly can give. It's going to help me get a handle on these characters, because the thing is, these characters are also based off of real people who I actually knew in the scene itself." And I got to be really careful with that because I don't want anybody to sue me, but they're basically based off of people I knew in the industry. That includes the really good people, the ex-girlfriends, the ex-boyfriends, the ex-lovers, the, you know, current boyfriends, girlfriends, and then the assholes, like the like we have an antagonist in this that I'm really interested for people to see, who's based off a real person who is currently active in Los Angeles right now. And if I ever run into him, I'm going to kick him right in the balls.
Wow, let's do that. Let's go on a PodcastBozo field mission.
Whoa.
And after we get off of this, I will tell you who that person is.
Oh, yes.
I can't wait for the gossip.
Yeah. I mean, Chrissy knows who it is.
I do.
Yeah.
She had to base the character off of stuff.
I love the drama.
Hey, man. Well, that's what's so funny is it's like, that's kind of what the book is. That's the book. That's the scene, is like, there's just so much drama. And it's so funny because like I was saying earlier, is like, I was talking to like my father about working on this book, because like he was the one who was like, I used to be a drummer. I started off as a drummer, and he was the one who like bought me my first drum set and like got me lessons, and then like really supported it. And then like I still sometimes play drums, but I live in an apartment, so it doesn't really always work out. But then I became like
bagpipes.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But then I became like the lead singer of the band that kind of, this is the era we're talking about. But he was always the one who was like supporting me through this whole thing. And, you know, I was telling him about the book, and he was just like, he was saying, you know, to me, it always looked like you guys were just being these like goofy kids wearing stupid clothes with like, you know, I would wear eyeliner at shows and stuff like that. And like, I was trying to describe it earlier when I was doing this, which I don't know if that means anything to you guys, but there was like a trend back in the day of like these two striped things or whatever. I was going to do it, but I chickened out at the end.
Come on.
Yeah, I know. But he was saying like, he was like, at first, when I first started seeing it, and this is like any real music genre anyways, that when it first started coming out, I was like, I looked at you guys as just kind of these goofy kids having a fun time, just like being fancy free and like, you know, all this, whatever. But then when my friend overdosed, that was when like he was like, but I didn't know there was so much kind of darkness and drama and you know, just rampant, unchecked, like I was saying, drug use and alcohol abuse and things like that. I mean, which you could say of pretty much any music genre or whatever. But I think a lot of people skip over it just because of the age of the people, and that it was mostly kind of like suburban white kids. Like, I'm not gonna lie, like that's just kind of how it was. And what were perceived as sort of these innocent kids, because these were kids, we were kids, you know. But it's like when I started playing music publicly, I was like 14 years old, and I was seeing like bands shooting heroin like in a church parking lot and like beating the shit out of each other. And like, you know, I remember one time way later down the line, like we were playing Record Theater in Maryland, which is a very nice venue, and like people were digging the music, and then I don't know what the hell happened, but we had to stop the entire show because like this one guy just like hauled off and fucking full on punched his girlfriend in the face and knocked her out.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So whoa. These are the things that I'm trying to address. And while there is the funny stuff, you know, like I vividly recall having to watch one of our guitarists film our other guitarist to see if he could actually physically poop in a Pringles can, which you
So
can't.
sweet.
You can't do it.
What?
No, you can't do it.
I don't know if I buy
I'm not
that.
even going to get into the science of that.
I mean,
I'm not
challenge
Bill Nye.
accepted.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say.
Because the Pringles can's not strong. Sorry, Chrissy. The Pringles can's not strong enough for the giant, disgusting male butthole. So you just crush it. You know what I mean?
What?
Yeah.
For it
This is hard to
supporting the
envisage.
person's weight.
Yeah, like because they were
Oh,
trying. He was
you're
trying to go like
sitting on it.
burp
Sit
into
on
it.
it.
He wasn't
Well, you need a-
hovering.
you-
It wasn't the UFO.
You need a helping hand. You need a
Well,
helping hand. Someone else.
I have completely derailed.
We've done too much poop content on this podcast. Let's breeze by this.
We need at least one poop talk during each episode.
I am an Eisner nominated artist. Okay, I'm allowed to talk about it.
Yeah.
I have derailed this entire thing. But anyways, but my point is like of course there's funny moments and there's going to be funny moments in the book too. But my point is, and like I said, Chrissy and Mike, you can back me up, but like that music scene at that time did have some like pretty fucking dark shit going on that like I feel like what has never really been fully addressed, honestly. Like, we're not getting remember I Love the 80s on VH1?
Yeah.
Did you guys ever watch that? They had like I Love the 70s and I Love the 90s. They had a whole lot of them. We're not going to be getting an I Love the genre of when emo and screamo was out. You know what I mean? So I'm hoping maybe like we can kind of show our own version of that, I suppose.
Is your audience for the show going to be people in their 20s, 30s, or is it going to also appeal to younger kids like 14-year-olds, teenagers?
Well, you know what? I'm going to defer to Chrissy on this one because I'm 35 years old and Chrissy is 25 years old. But we both grew up listening to the same music.
Yeah, my siblings were the same age as him, so I kind of like lived vicariously through them for the first.
So it's
however
interesting.
many-
It's interesting with like, because like my experiences was in that scene, basically. Like I was whatever. And it's been really interesting to talk to Chrissy because Chrissy's background was kind of experiencing it more sort of on like the back end through like the internet and a different way. Yeah. So like, Chrissy, do you want to maybe address like that, like kind of who we're going to appeal to? Because I think that like, we're not just trying to go for 25 to 35 to 40-year-olds. I honestly think this would appeal to like much younger people, especially right now where like, I mean, I have nieces and nephews. I don't have any kids or anything, but I have nieces and nephews and it's like the internet now, especially is just, that's the reality of it. I mean, that's like, that's how everybody gets a lot of their content and things like that. And I think that applies to younger people, but like Chrissy, maybe you can expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm like 10 years younger. So
Shut up.
Okay. It's just like I lived a lot more vicariously through the internet than actually like on the scene, I guess. Because in like 2008 when scene was at its prime, I was in like 8th grade. So I think what
with the scene, you describing you being in 8th grade when the scene was in its prime, and maybe Ian was experiencing a little more of the hands-on stuff, going to shows and whatnot, and he's describing this abusive alcohol and drug scene that can take place at these shows. Were you aware of it during when you were being introduced to it while you were that young? And like, I guess I'm curious as to how that part of it is going to translate into the book itself, and how that would be, if your audience is on the younger side of things, is it going to be censored at all for them? Are you going to like, I don't know how you would handle that sort of circumstance.
I guess it would be kind of like when you watch TV as a teen, they have like teen directed shows where they address like drugs and all the spooky, scary stuff of the world. So I feel like we should have.
Yeah, those are the ones where it's all like, he shot up a bunch of weed. He's gonna die.
Did the weeds. But yeah, so I think that we probably wouldn't have to censor anything because I feel like the people we are directing it to would probably be fine with. Like, I'm not trying to get like a 10-year-old to read a comic about drugs or something. So I don't know. It's gonna be a hit or miss, I guess, with each situation.
Yeah.
Well, I guess like on my end, just from writing it and all that is, and Chrissy and I talked about this actually fairly extensively about what we thought, how we wanted to approach things like that, and how much we really wanted to reveal. And I mean, I don't know about y'all, but you know, at 10 and like 11, I was fairly aware of things that were going on around me, I guess is the best way I can say it. And like, I posit that younger people are a hell of a lot more aware of what's going on than probably we were back in the day. At least that's what I think. That's just my theory.
Mm-hmm.
But I also said, like, I wasn't going to hold back anything on this because I think it's important. I think it's important to show that younger people, like I said, I started doing this when I was like 13, 14 years old. Like when I started playing music and doing all this stuff and seeing all that stuff, you know? And yeah, was it shocking at the time? Of course it was very shocking. I mean, I was a very sheltered introvert kid, you know, I lived next to a farm, all this kind of stuff. Like there wasn't a whole lot going on. So seeing that, of course, was like, holy shit. But I would have rather seen this kind of stuff and known this kind of stuff that was going on than not know that to this day, because I think that would have really changed my outlook on life and the way that I just basically, you know, see things and deal with things and speak to people and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's important for younger people. You know, I wouldn't be giving this book to like a 6-year-old, that's for sure. But
yeah, they wouldn't even get it.
But there's Chrissy and I sat down and we agreed that we were not going to hold off on the things that we thought were very important to show. And that is including LGBTQ content, LGBTQ plus content. Like I was saying, drug stuff. The crux of this is death, so we're already there. And you know, like I said, like alcoholism, things like that, and just that was something we said. You know what? These things existed. This was the reality. Like, so I'm not going to pretend that those things weren't there, I guess, if that makes sense. And then at the same time, you know, sorry if your parent is lame and doesn't want to buy a book like that.
Well, I was just going to say, I love it when like really protective is the wrong word, but just like skewed viewed parents like see things like this come out and they just like freak out. That's like one of my favorite things to watch, because it's like it's like, oh, like they're like girls kissing girls, or like it's like it's just like
spontaneously combust.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just like they look at your book, they open one page, and they just disappear.
It's interesting too, because the other part, and Chrissy, I don't want to step on your toes here or whatever, but Chrissy and I also talked about how we both sort of, maybe me so a little more or less, but we both talked about how like we sort of grew up in a more like kind of conservative area as well, where like, you know, a lot of these venues, like I was saying earlier, were churches and things like that, or like our parents just didn't. God, I sound so old. Like, fuck you, mom and dad. Like our, you know, but like our parents just didn't really kind of understand. And it's like, I think it was like you guys were saying earlier, where it was, you know, yeah, like head blown up about, you know, 2 dudes kissing or 2 girls kissing or something like that, and blah, 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 all that. Or that, you know, music, you know, this music is putting Satan into my, you know, my kid's head. Thankfully, like for me, my parents were not on that level, but
mine were, but that's okay.
I'm just saying, like, I was definitely like a little sheltered as far as that goes. And like I was saying, like I was definitely like an introvert. But again, if I hadn't experienced this kind of stuff, I certainly wouldn't be talking to you guys right now, you know, in a meeting and being able to actually just to properly talk about things. I don't know what I would be doing. I'd probably be making chocolate chip cookies right now. I don't know.
I wish you were
too. Wrong with that.
Getting my 10 cats.
So Micah,
yes,
you know, it's obvious, you know, this story is something that Ian has, you know, lived and has a very real attachment to because he lived it. And, Chrissy may have vicariously lived it through her siblings and whatnot. What kind of connection did you have to the SCREAMO scene growing up? Were you involved in that scene? Is this something you're very familiar with, or is this, something you're learning about as you're working on the project as well?
Oh, no. I mean, I knew about it. I listened to a lot of it. At the time, I was like around 2004, I got married. 2005, I had a first kid. In 2007, I had a second kid. So I was a little busy to get involved and go out and play. Like I don't play any instruments, and because of being married and having kids and all, I wasn't really a big concert goer. I listened to all the music, or not all, a lot of it. I was also at the time I was working as a youth pastor. So a lot of SCREAMO stuff was Christian music, or at least Christian.
Well, that's the thing. SCREAMO is a lot of it is Christian too. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah. So I mean, a lot of it, so I could listen to it and have it and be like, "Hey, kids, Jesus is cool. Listen to this." But yeah.
He's rad. He's dope. He's cool. He's a hip man. Yeah.
Jesus is vibing.
Yeah. So mostly my involvement in SCREAMO.
Kickflip to Ollie's cool. Have you tried kick flipping to the Bible?
Oh, King of the Hill.
I know, right?
Yeah, so mostly my involvement in SCREAMO was just listening to it and hearing about it. I know when I used to work at a hardware store, and there was a guy there that was younger than me, and he would tell me about going to, what was that place called? Peppermint Club or something like that. It's a place in Virginia Beach where they used to have a lot of shows, and he would tell me about all kinds of fights between the different scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
And like, guys getting stomped outside because he was like a different scene than the rest of them, where I was like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go home to my wife and kids. Yeah. So.
Cool.
Chrissy, I got a question for you.
Yes.
Earlier, we were talking about how artwork can be really isolating when you're at home, and especially in quarantine now. All of you, actually, I want to hear, how do you deal with that? I know that, Chrissy, you stream, so how does that affect your workflow? Do you still feel that sense of isolation, or does that really give you a boost?
It does help. I think that's one of the main reasons I started doing it. It was just nice to connect with people, have them ask questions about my process and request things and talk about what kind of video games we're playing. Because really the only communication I have is my husband, my cat and dog, and like a weekly work meeting on Google Meets. So it's been very limited.
Yeah.
But I think art helps for sure.
Well, that's tough. It's been tough for everyone, I'm sure.
I mean, I know for us, this podcast has really helped me as far as, maintaining a social livelihood. We started this, me and JJ grew up together and, got to know Eli through JJ's college experience, and through quarantine, I think it's really helped us to maintain a bit of a social aspect to our lives on the day to day. And it's something I value very dearly.
Yeah. We've gotten to meet a lot of cool people that we'd never run into on the streets in the first place. So, yeah. Also, by the way, Ian, I wanted to bring up that I play Munchkin all the time with my girlfriend, and we play specifically the one that you illustrated.
Aww.
And I didn't make that connection until afterwards, and I knew you had some involvement with Munchkin. I just look at the card and I see your signature on it. And
we see one of the signature cards, like, "Hey, Ian."
Yeah. We give a little smooch, and then I destroy my girlfriend with it. But yeah.
So I have so as an official Munchkin artist, though, here's the thing: is that if somebody mails me a card or several cards, I'm actually legally allowed to change the rules of that card and add numbers and pluses and add whatever I want to it.
That's
and
cool.
yes, I am actually legally allowed to do that. I had to sign a contract for that.
Really? No
Yep.
way.
Yep.
What?
Cool.
Yeah.
So the
So,
game,
like-
the game.
Yeah. So I could basically give you, like, if you wanted to mail me something, I could just cross out the rules and be like, basically you win. Like, you win the game.
We're gonna become the bane of your existence. We're gonna buy like 1,000 cards, and we're just gonna start shipping them to you over and over again, and making you customize them.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. That was like, literally a contract. It was in my rider. It was all like, by the way, you're like, you can do all this. And I was just like, I'm going to make so many people's partners pissed off.
Oh, that's so awesome. That's such a funny rule they put in there.
Yeah.
Your house is going to be like the Vernon Dudley's house in Harry Potter, where one letter starts coming in, then all of a sudden.
But yeah, the Munchkin stuff's cool. And it's like, like I was saying, like, Chrissy, her day gig is like video games. And I've been lucky enough to work on a lot of board games and things like that. So it's also nice having, like, we have a very, like, eclectic team of people like working on the book too, which I'm really excited about. Like with Micah's experiences, because like I was saying, he does really awesome logos that I still owe him money for. Shut up, Micah.
Shut up, Micah.
And then Chrissy's like, he's not even smiling. But no, like with like Micah's experience, like doing with the lettering, logos, and some design things, and all of his and all the different artists and writers he's worked with, that was just like a shoe in. And then I was looking for artists because the problem is, like, because it's such a personal book, I was originally going to draw all of this by myself, but I really felt like I wanted to focus more on just making sure like the script and the story and things like that were all accurate, because there's actually a lot of research that I have to do for all this kind of stuff. And I have to check up on dates, and I have to make sure I'm not, I have to make sure I'm doing the best I can to make sure that the people involved, the fictionalized versions of the people involved are not, the good ones are good, the bad ones are bad, and things like that. But that I'm also not besmirching anybody's reputation, things like that. Which is why Chrissy's art jumped at me, because I believe it was stuff I had seen on maybe your Instagram, Chrissy. I don't really remember what it might have been Twitter. I don't really remember what it was.
I'm not sure.
It was some dumb fucking platform of bullshit that whatever. But yeah, like then I saw Chrissy's art, and I had been like asking other artists, and then my partner was like, well, have you talked to Chrissy? And just this like light bulb went boop, and I was like, oh, I mean, look at her hair, for God's sake. I was like, how would this not be perfect for this project? So I didn't really say that. But so then I looked at Chrissy's art, and I was just like, this is perfect. And I think like we've put together like a really awesome team, and everybody's real chill. That's the main thing. We've both, I think all three of us are kind of coming off of like some shit projects that unfortunately didn't really pan out super well. And this has been very like cathartic for me. And I'm hoping that it's also been like kind of cool for Chrissy and Micah as well. Like as like I said, as we're about to like kind of ramp up into finally like putting everything together and getting it going.
Definitely.
Ian, when you're putting these stories to paper, do you get emotional? Since it's so close to your heart, and there's obviously some... Dude,
yeah, absolutely. It's hard sometimes, but it's like I was saying, it's also weirdly cathartic, because my friend, this was my best friend. Like, and I cannot stress that enough. It sucks. It's really sad. And he was, I believe, I want to say he was 25 or 26 when he passed away, which is insanely young for someone to lose their life,
Yeah, not that there's a right age, but that's a sad age.
It's an extremely sad age. And like I was saying as well, I also want to make sure I'm not trying to capitalize off of his death, essentially. And so that's also been a big challenge, is like making sure I'm not making this about me. It's supposed to be more about him. So I definitely have been getting like really emotional, like kind of talking about it, because I haven't dealt with this in 10 plus years. I haven't, I remember I at the time I was living in Savannah, Georgia. And when he passed away, he was living in Maryland, where like I'm originally from. And I remember I drove, all the way from Georgia there to like go to his funeral. And, it was just like, it was this weird thing, because all the people at the funeral were people from the scene itself as well. It was all the musicians and all the people that like it was really, it was really hardcore. Like it was really, because it was people who I hadn't seen for a long time, because like I had left to go to school, because like at one point, I went the band I was in had broken up, and I was just like, well, I can either start another band or I can like go and get my degree. And I opted to like go get a degree in art, because even when I was playing music, I was just drawing all the time. Anyways, like I was designing all of our merchandise, and I was doing all this stuff, and I was drawing little short comics in the back of the van while smoking weed. Yeah. And but yeah, it was like like one of those 90s movies where like at the end everybody in the movie, like who were enemies or friends or whatever, like all showed up, and it was just like in one spot at the same time. And then like everybody, because of this one thing that happened, everybody was like, holy shit. Because like my friend, his name was Rob, was like one of the nicest guys you've ever met in your entire life. And he was one of the few guys who never had a bad thing to say about anybody. He was always chill. Everybody loved him. He was just a cool dude who was always easy to talk to. Anytime you're having a problem, he would always try to help you out, this and that. And then unfortunately, like as things happen, as like this was kind of right around when like the opioid crisis was really starting to get hardcore. Shit happens. Like I don't like to phrase it like that, but like shit happens, Unfortunately, there was some decisions were made and actions were made that just unfortunately resulted in a not awesome end result, I guess is the best way I can put it. But it's so basically like I went to this funeral and I saw all these people I hadn't seen in forever. And, it was awkward. It was strange. I'm not trying to bring down everybody right now, but
it's all right. We're listening.
It was very weird, but it was also uplifting in a way to like kind of see everybody together who I hadn't seen in years, who some people had changed a ton. Like people got married, people had kids, people had completely swapped, the way they dress, the way they talk, things like that. Some people were still exactly the same, but to see all these people kind of together. And then we had this big session where we sort of like talked about our memories of this guy. And then I left, and we did that, and I left the funeral, and I remember I went and got Korean barbecue. I got into a huge fight with my brother about something. I don't remember what it was about. And then I drove back home. I drove back to Savannah, Georgia, where my school was. And then I basically like pushed this out of my memory for like 10 years. And then a month before I started talking, not a month, maybe 2 months before I started talking to Chrissy about maybe putting this book together, I found the DVD that someone had recorded of the session of us talking about our memories of this guy. And that's what kind of prompted me going like, I should really put together something about this. Like not only talking about the music scene, but also like a celebration of this person's life, who I think a lot of people, like I said, he wasn't like a rock star or anything like that. He's just this normal guy, guitarist. He was in a cool band. As I said earlier, I do think if things had gone different ways, this band would have probably been pretty popular. But he was just this normal dude, and I found this DVD, and I didn't even watch it. I just like I just found this DVD, and I was like, holy shit, I forgot I had this. And then that was when I was like, I got to do something to like talk about this kind of stuff and just like get this shit out. You know what I mean? So that's kind of like where it all came from. So is it emotional? Yeah.
Yeah. I I can see that. And I mean, first of all, like I think that's the important story that you're telling here. Like if there was something for me that's really that I'm taking away, and I think that a lot of people will take away from that is that like about this story, I should say, is that life is nitty and gritty and there are bad parts, there are good parts, and just hiding the bad parts doesn't push them away. And good people do have tough times, and you can see someone with that has issues with drugs and things like that, and a lot of people will be like, that's a bad guy, throw that person away, we don't need them anymore. But that's not true. That's not what's happening. This is a good person who deserves a chance, and some people are willing to throw that chance away. And I always think of the comparison where like sex ed is a very undervalued thing in children, and people think that if you hide sex and things from kids at a young age, that all of a sudden they're just gonna like avoid sex and sex won't be a problem until they're the right age magically. And but it's not. If you tell them the truth about it and like the real, like everything about it, you like everything, all the what adults would consider the ugly parts or the parts that you don't want to talk about that feel awkward, that has to become more open. And that's true with everything, and everything that it sounds like you might be covering in this book is that you have to be open about this stuff. And yeah, there's going to be some helicopter parents whose red alarms go off when they see this book and flip through it, and they might not show their kids, and whatever, that was going to happen with them anyways. But the people that do get to read this and who do get to experience the message that you're telling and like the full throttle of life that you're exposing, I think will truly benefit from it. And it's another way to get in touch with people, because that age is weird. You're going through some weird stuff. Like it's awkward. You're experimenting. You're trying to figure out where you're juxtaposed with everything that everyone's been telling you during that time, and where you fall in that, and how you meet up to other people's expectations. And so you lash out, you conform, you have this like volatile action thing going on. And I don't know, the more stories there are to tell. And I think it's good that you don't include these, like the actual names, the actual bands, because then it becomes about that rather than the story that you're telling. Yeah. And I think that's important too. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and like an important thing to remember as well is, as I've said multiple times, it's like, you know, we were essentially children pretty much, you know? But at the same time, we also have to recognize as well is that these bands, or these facsimiles of bands that we're going to be addressing, were also crazy young. And I think it's important to go like, you know, like this band, the median number of the musicians were like 22 years old, but they got incredibly huge, or their music is now forged forever. And that's also an interesting thing, because then you have to look at like where, you know, you're basically like, I've now put my stamp upon this era and things like that, but I was fucking like 22 years old. Like I was young. my brain was not fully shaped. Like I didn't have, you know, this blah, blah, blah. So I always think it's interesting, because it's like for a small example, like the band All Time Low, I used to know those guys before they were like All Time Low, right? And they said some dumb fucking shit, but they were like 19, 20 years old, a lot of these people, and things like that. And it's like, but I think that's, and I'm not excusing anything. I'm not saying they said anything like racist or sexist or anything. It was just like shit that, you know, whatever, you have a couple beers and you just say like, oh, you know, you say talk shit or whatever. But you know, they're, and Chrissy, I'm not, you might know more on this, but I think they're still fairly popular.
Who?
All Time Low?
I'm
they're still around, I think. But
I feel like I still see people talk about it sometimes.
Anyways, my point is, it's like, it's also important to remember that while we were all very young and kids, these musicians who eventually blew up hardcore were also young and mostly kids. And I think that is going to speak to a lot of people who are going to be interested in the book as well. Because it's like, you know, I would have to have more alcohol in my system than I do right now to actually play for you guys the music in my band I was in. But it's incredibly embarrassing. So I can't even imagine how like how these bands that actually got big and popular might feel about like listening back to like some of their lyrics or how they acted on stage and things like that. So it's very interesting.
We'll save that for the third time we have you back, and then we'll
maybe
we'll play
I don't know,
the
man.
music.
We'll see.
You don't know if you're going to come back?
Yeah.
Well, thanks for sharing that with us. I know I can tell it's emotional for you, and that's what will make it a good story. And each of your different experiences with it will also, like the objective, almost objective perspective that Micah can share with it is going to lend its own thing, and then the secondary perspective of Chrissy will have its own value to the story, and then your direct perspective. And I think that I don't know. That's why you don't do projects alone, because there are many perspectives to be lent. Well, one thing that we like to kind of like tie the episode together with is kind of like a topic and something that we kind of that I think we covered a lot, and not to rush us off the episode, and we're allowed to talk about things as long as we want, but one thing that I kind of like dialed in on is this is a passion project for you guys. There is no one, you guys are the ones running the show. This is something that you guys are coming from a point of like soul on, I guess, to say it cornily. But there's a quality that you have to have when you're doing a project like that. And we kind of can feel similarly, because there's no one's funding this. We're not getting paid for this. We're just kind of doing it because we like to. And we hope someday it might get big enough to sustain our lives on its own. We hope to have a Micah type story. But yeah, if I could ever grow a beard that big, I think that's the only thing holding us
so
back.
lethargic when you say that.
Yeah. But there's a quality to dreaming. Yeah.
That's the most energy you get. I can muster.
We'll play with the volume, but
Jesus.
But there's a quality to dreaming big where you have to kind of neglect doubt and get rid of things that tell you no, and that kind of thing, to move forward and keep the big picture. Maybe it's your vision board on the wall or whatever, that thing that really emotionally it puts into a nutshell what keeps you going on these projects and what keeps you moving on it. And I guess for each of you, starting with Chrissy, what is that nutshell thing that really like motivates you through? What keeps you ignoring anything that you might doubt or look back on, and keeps you looking forward?
That's really tough. Oh no.
I put you on the spot.
Oh God. Everything went blank.
Shoot. Ian, hit us. Give Chrissy some time.
So the nutshell of what makes me keep going, like as in living, or just like working?
For example, on this podcast, I imagine the ability for the thing that keeps me motivated, and that what I love about this is, first of all, I love Sean and Eli, and I love talking to new people, and it's that's one part of it. But what wants me to grow and what motivates me to put all the work that we do into it, for me, is the dream of someday being able to like be in an RV and motor around and have our podcast from there, and just be constantly meeting new people and be able to live off this, because this project for us lets us embody all of our strengths in a way that's kind of unique to anything. Like it allows Eli to be artistic. It allows me to be creative, and it allows Sean to be chatty. To drink beer and to talk and be passionate about his passions and things like that. So I wonder, what is it? So like on my vision board, for example, the nutshell would be just like a picture of us in like a nice studio, just kind of like living the life, making this our life. And maybe for you, it'd be having someone read this and be touched by it and like understand life a little more. I don't want to speak for you too much, but what is the push for you in this project?
So, for me, on a more like personal level, I would like I believe we were asked at some point a similar question for a different interview, worded slightly differently. But it was that I would hope that if someone reads this, whether or not they grew up in that time period and things like that, they see that we put a lot of effort and energy into creating this thing and faithfully talking about aspects of the scene that were maybe not quite as clear back in the day, and then sort of exposing and talking about, like I said, a music genre that I do feel like got a little bit overshadowed very fast. It really only lasted about 8-10 years, something like that, Chrissy, somewhere around there. I mean, and a lot of these bands are still around. Like one of my favorite bands is Dance Gavin Dance. They're still around. I just did their book. They just came out with a graphic novel they illustrated, and but they've now, they're not, you wouldn't call them screamo. They're now kind of more like experimental and things like that. And bands evolves, like and the music scene evolves and things like that. But what I would hope is that if someone would get this book, they would not only feel, and I hate to go like a sense of nostalgia, because I think we can all agree that like the nostalgia machine has kind of been a little bit out of control lately, as far as just like, instead of making a new video game, we just re-release a remastered of an old video game, like type deal, whatever, like, sequels that nobody gives a shit.
Right. Live action.
Yeah,
Disney.
member berries.
Member
Yeah, exactly.
berries.
Like, like reboots of movie franchises no one fucking cares about, things like that. And thankfully, like with comics, it's funny because a lot of people complain constantly about, like, for example, like, let's say, like, I was reading this tweet yesterday that was like, talking about like Spider-Man 3, like the newest Spider-Man's coming out, and everybody's all like, Doc Ock's coming back, all that kind of stuff. And then there was just this funny tweet that was like, do I need to watch like 1, 2, 3, and then 1 and 2, and then 1 and 2 again, like that kind of thing. So that was, I know it was funny, but like that's movies and things, and like with comics, like I feel there's a lot more like eclectic ways of people rebooting things. This is not whatever. But so my point is, like, I hope that people can get just a little twinge of that nostalgia, maybe if you were familiar with it. But mostly, I would hope that people could pick this book up, see how awesome the art is, see how awesome the lettering and the design and stuff is, and go like, wow, these people put a lot of their heart and energy into this thing, and mostly like just read through it for a day or two maybe, and then connect with some of these characters and connect with that. But mostly, like I said, appreciate that while there is a death involved in the entire book, like the story is still can be fun, and we can have the darkness with the lightness, I suppose. On a second aside, on a personal level, for me, all I want to do is be sitting at a table with Micah and Chrissy signing this motherfucking book for people at a convention.
Hell yeah.
Hopefully, safely and mask free by then.
Ugh. I can't even imagine what that looks like.
I know.
Like Mike and I haven't seen each other in person for years. I don't even know if Chris and I have even met in person. Yeah, I know.
I'm not even a real person. I'm a cryptid. Sorry.
That's shit.
So it's just
you'll never meet me.
Because it's such a personal project to me. It's like I'm very grateful for these two awesome artists to even agree to help me try and make this into reality. So that's kind of what's making me move forward right now. Dan Cheese.
You guys have answers? Yeah. And cheese.
Chrissy, how about you?
Okay. Since I had time to bake on it, I would say that I definitely want to be able to touch somebody with it. That's always been the biggest drive for me for art my entire life, is that everything I make, I want it to mean at least something to someone, which I feel like with this book, people will easily be able to put themselves into the book, so they can kind of like maybe not relate in every aspect, but they'll be able to see like themes that they went through when they were growing up, and just like some like comfort and guidance maybe.
Yeah, it's
a little
great.
bit of nostalgia too. But
Yeah. And I think that will. I think people that will ring with a lot of people. And people have more similar lives sometimes than they think they do.
mm-hmm.
Just because some of us have dye hair, like a different gender than the rest of us do, it doesn't mean we don't have the same experiences.
Definitely.
Micah,
Yes.
speak your truth.
It's why am I passionate about this project or just projects in general?
Whatever you want. What keeps
Oh,
you
okay.
going?
Not this project.
Keeps you going.
What keeps me going? No, of course not. I mean, my job is, I'm not like the creator. I'm just the guy that works on it. Usually at the end, for any of the projects I work on. So, I mean, my job's mostly in finishing the book and making it complete almost. And that is something I really like about my job, that I'm helping finish somebody's dream. You know, like a lot of times, I mean, I worked with like not big companies, but comic book companies. So they have a little bit more money. But when you're working with somebody who's doing it like off of their day job money, they're trying to put this thing together, and being able to help them do that is kind of makes me feel good. And being able to make money while doing it definitely is nice.
Love that bread.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of I work out of my house, and it's just me doing this work. I mean, I'm here with my family, but there's kind of like a DIY kind of punk kind of thing to it. But also in the long run, I have to provide money for them and for myself. So being paid is a nice goal.
Yeah.
Money's
I like
funny
that.
like that.
I like that. I mean, I hated leaving the house and going and doing jobs. I mean, I definitely don't want to go back to doing manual labor, which is at this point the only thing I'm qualified to do. I don't have any other. I never finished college for anything, and all the jobs I had, none of them were really experienced builders. I'm pretty sure at this point anything I learned doing construction has probably changed. So I'd probably be digging ditches if I had to go back to a real job. So I don't want to do that. So that kind of that pushes me some.
It's
Yeah. I mean, that pretty much that, and I mean that's the more kind of boring kind, but just somebody being able to buy a book with my name on it is pretty cool. Like when I finally started working on books that were like actually in comic book stores, and my name was on the cover, especially when it's like with like a book company like Image or Dark Horse or something. I mean, that's really cool.
Badass.
Yeah,
That's very cool.
and going and being able to go to the counter and be like, "Hey, that's my name," and the person going, "Okay."
yeah.
Like,
awesome. Do you want to buy it or what?
Yeah. I'm like, do you have people that work for Dark Horse and Image coming through the store all the time? Like something for me here? A little congratulations, or I mean, like I live in Portsmouth, Virginia. There's not a whole lot of comic book I know celebrity, but comic book talent coming through this area. Maybe a little something for the kid. I mean,
yeah, I put my heart and soul in this thing.
Well, I mean,
Don't pretend I'm just someone
there's
else.
nothing like when somebody sends you a photo of one of your books in one of their in a comic shop that like is not around in your state or whatever. That's like the coolest thing in the world to me.
Yeah, that is really cool. That is real cool.
Your tangible
I'm not
work.
published yet, but I'll
Well,
imagine it.
you will be soon. You will
I'll
be
imagine
soon.
it. Someone else in some other comic shop. Yeah.
Well, I that's kind of all we have. I don't know if you guys have anything else you want to share about the project before we sign off. But
I had a joke I wanted to say earlier, but Ian was being serious when Ian said that what Ian was saying about his dad didn't know about all the drama involved in SCREAMO. And I was going to say that it's because Ian was following the saying and he was saving the drama for his mama.
Hey.
Fuck you.
And end recording. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we
Dude,
paid Micah.
when Ian was talking about his dead friend, it didn't feel like the right
No,
time.
I think
to
you
say
saved
that.
it for the proper time. But fuck you, anyways.
Fair enough.
Just get me out of here. Yeah.
Well,
Check, please.
Funny
thank
joke,
you guys
Micah.
so much
That was
for
really
joining
funny.
us.
That was funny. Funny joke. Funny.
Micah's the wild card here, and that's what I love.
We'll leave the room. You guys talk about whatever happened there, and we really appreciate you guys wanting to come on and sharing your stories. And we're excited for the project to come out. And like Cheek said, Cheek
Yeah,
never
for sure.
forgets
Better send
anything,
us
so
that.
he'll be knocking
I
at your
want
door if
every
we don't get
signature
that.
on there. I
Yeah.
want Micah's,
Totally,
I
100%.
want Micah's on top in biggest lettering I can see.
Can I just drop a little like log line just real quick before we dip out of here?
Hit us with your log line.
Yeah, so I was just gonna say, the book's called SCREAMO. It is gonna be by me and Chrissy Hops and Micah Meyers. And I would say look for it in 2021 because we've already got a bunch of people interested in things like that. And who knows what's gonna happen. But we've got an awesome team behind everything. And I think y'all are gonna dig this one.
I think so too.
Let's
Also,
go.
one thing I just remembered is that we have a friend named Casey Ryan. He came on our show at one point, and his job is to promote indie projects. And he's been doing it for a lot of years. He has a bigger following than us. And we will get you guys in contact with him because we've gotten some good responses from his followers, and we're kind of outside the realm of what he offers, and you guys are more inside the realm of what he offers. So, and he's a nice guy, and he's a good contact to
Hell
have.
yeah.
So we would like to get you guys. It might be something. He's really responsive on Twitter, so I might just at both of you and be like, get chatting, Bozos, and you guys. He'll be more than happy to follow through, and we'll make sure we
He's
get
a
you guys in
great guy.
contact.
Super
Yeah,
nice dude.
yeah, he's a sweetheart. So he I don't know, you guys don't have to be interested in it, but he'll have you on his show in a heartbeat. So yeah, that's something for the future. Yeah, but
Sounds good to me. We would appreciate that. Any help is always appreciated.
yeah, it would be the only good thing that came out of this podcast. So
Well, we had Micah's awesome joke about my dead friend.
yeah. No,
It wasn't about your dead friend.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Dead.
That was mean. I'm sorry.
All right.
No, that was mean. I apologize.
You better be careful around Micah. He eats people.
He's gonna eat you. Yeah, be careful.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he rips tree logs in half. Yeah, I've seen it.
Well, thank y'all so much for joining us. And
Try and be a good guy.
yeah. Have a nice evening. And we'll stay in touch, obviously, and good luck with project moving forward.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.